Hi and Happy New Year. My name is Mike. So maybe you are finding yourself wanting to undertake some kind of yoga. You're looking around and completely bewildered or intimidated. There's a lot of difference. The classes are all called something else, something different. How do you choose? How do you know what's, comfortable for you, what's right for what your goals are? Well, I am starting here a series of reels that is going to break down some of the differences that you're going to find in some of those classes and what makes them different. I'm just going to say that there are two main top level things, levers, dials that we pull in order to change how our classes feel. So on one axis, you've got your ability. So that's your strength, your flexibility. And on another axis, you've got your pace. Is it a really flowing class? Is it a really chill class? Now, when you do both of those things in different directions, you create different kinds of classes. And then, of course, there are many other things that we mix into these practices that change the experience. It depends on what lineage, what kind of training, how much training, an instructor's personal preferences. None of this is governed by anyone. We basically get creative and do our own thing while adhering to certain principles. So stay tuned. We're going to break down some of those things, look at them, and you can always ask me questions. I'll see the comments and I'll answer. Okay, stay tuned. What makes yoga classes different? In this video, we're going to look at, on the axes of ability and pace, high ability and high pace. So the ability axis has to do with strength and flexibility. How well can you tolerate holding a big chair pose, staying low in a warrior for a count, using core strength to be in a triangle out in space here. Now, a good class will offer you a range of all of that. Axis number 2 is your pace. So some classes are going to breathe and move with, marry them together. Inhale, exhale, and expect you to keep time. Inhale, all the while using your strength and flexibility. Exhale, finding planks, coming down to the floor like this. A lot of upper body strength. You're going to find classes of this type under the power yoga, under the vinyasa flow. It's a huge mix. So don't be intimidated by high ability and high pace when you're starting out, because there are other types. That's what this video series is about. Okay, what does it look like if my class is a high ability but lower pace? So what you're going to find is that if the pace is being lowered, the ability is going to come down some, but it can still require a fair amount of strength or flexibility, maybe just in a quieter way. Let's look at how that might show up. First, let's look at what changes when the pace comes down. It doesn't mean that we don't flow. It can still be a flowing class. Maybe we're in standing poses and we're still doing poses like so, but it's not so much about, getting from one breath to the other. I may come here, I may still flow here. There may be any number of standing flows. Come on up like so, taking my time. It's just that the pace is much slower, allowing a lot of time for the breath, but the ability can really range. How does the ability scale slide as well in this scenario? I could still have a slow paced class that does a big old balance, something like this, on out, big turn, big twist, okay? That's high ability, that's strength and flexibility. But again, a skilled teacher will be able to tell you that maybe we just want to start simply right here or right here. Do something that slides the ability scale a little bit. These classes may show up as a slow flow, but then again, slow flow may mean that this class is way more chill, or it could be kind of like how I was just talking about. It may show up in classes that are called, here's the thing, Hatha, okay? Number 1, that's not how it's pronounced. It's called Hatha. I'm gonna do videos about this later. But a lot of times you'll find that is emblematic of this kind of ability and pace where they both slide a little bit more. Ask questions if you got them. Video number 3 on how to recognize or tease apart the different kinds of classes that are out there. This one is about lighter, lower ability with lower pace. From the perspective of ability, we're talking again about strength and flexibility. In a class that is lower ability and lower pace, you really want to have the time to find your way. What I'll do in class is, perhaps this is involving the use of props. If I have low flexibility, this is going to help me ease into a stretch like this. If I'm really tight like this, I'm going to encourage you to learn how to use props so that you can create better shapes, so that you can feel maybe more successful in certain ways. And the time that we take to do that will mean that you probably are doing fewer poses throughout the hour and allowing yourself to develop that. From the perspective of less strength, you're going to start more simply, okay? Maybe we are doing a kneeling plank like so. Maybe we are starting in tabletop to learn to develop our tricep strength and just get the strength in our hands a little bit stronger before you can progress. You can give yourself that time. So what am I looking for if I want this lower ability and lower pace class? Well, as with all of these categories, they are squishy, they slide. Absolutely, these can be your beginner classes. Pretty much everyone is going to offer something that serves the beginner. Also, this could be described as gentle, but I will put a caveat on the gentle side, is that gentle is a subjective word and it can apply to a lot of the different things that I'm talking about in this series as well. Let's do another video about gentle, but lower ability, lower pace can also be called a gentle vinyasa, gentle flow, gentle yoga. All right, slow flow. There are still more types of classes that are low pace, but can range. Anyone of any kind of ability is probably going to be able to do them. These are our yin yoga classes, our restorative yoga classes. Here's some of the things that we do in those. Take a look at a pose called pigeon or deer. Someone of higher ability may choose, to do a bigger stretch like so, and then we're coming forward some amount, but it can show up. That's very yin-like for a person of more flexibility. Maybe we keep it simpler like so, and maybe I don't come all the way to the floor, but I still relax. Maybe as that increases, I come on down. In restorative yoga, we spend even minutes in a pose like this, sort of a form of bridge where my shoulders are cascading off of this bolster, and I just enjoy the ability of opening the heart. And if I didn't have that kind of flexibility in my back, maybe I would lie on just the lift of a blanket. Look at how something like a forward fold can be managed in these kinds of classes. Of course, someone who has more flexibility might like to take a yin pose where we just release on down, but a lot of times we will use props, including the chair. If keeping straight legs and I have lower flexibility, I may start here and then I may progress as I can come forward more deeply, maybe even more, and be even more restful. Sometimes we even do poses that are supported high up like this, and as your ability increases, the hairline rests on the props down there. So that kind of pose has many levels of ability, but is still at the low end of pace or energy. I love chair yoga. It's funny because I don't have any videos on my channel of it, but I was just reminded by a friend that that was the case, and so you can expect some chair yoga coming. Okay, on this series, we're looking at ability versus pace and how classes show up. So lower ability, lower pace, I already talked about how that looks on, a standard kind of class, but the most easeful class is a chair yoga class because it takes a lot of the joint issues away. Usually a person who is seeking or best suited for a chair class probably has some, maybe you're working with some injuries, some limitations on a major joint. And so the chair is just allowing us to do things even more easily. It also doesn't involve going to the floor and getting up a lot. Look at what I can do in a chair yoga class. I got my Warrior 2, side angle, reverse warrior. I never have to, worry about what my thigh strength is or if my, knee joints, my foot joints are going to accommodate. I can do all of the flexibility. I can still work big in my back. I'm still gonna get the benefit of my twists. So much you can do. Just because it's chair based doesn't mean that we sit the whole time either. So even if you have joint issues, you can use the support of the chair. Maybe we test our strength, but we've got a little bit more support here. We can also practice our balance really easy. It's so nice to have contact with the chair and then practice some kind of tree pose like this. Many, many kinds of poses we can do. So that's just a few of the reasons why I really love a chair practice. It's good for almost everyone. What's a gentle yoga class? I think this one may be interpreted the most broadly, widely, differently. Now, I'll say that I teach every week 2 different classes that have gentle in the name, and they're taught very differently. To begin with, the first one is taught with an older population. So if we're talking about our scales of ability and pace, both of those have to come down. But for this group, I want to do things that are very functional. So I want to take all my standard poses and just gentlify them. You've heard me talk about that. So the ones I post online are very much in this vein. Now, the other one that I teach is called a gentle vinyasa. And that one also kind of takes the level down off of a more energetic yoga flow. And so the expectation is that you're still kind of moving. It's just maybe the pace is a little bit differently and you have, a different kind of course that runs. So and further than that, there may be a way of looking at a gentle class. Maybe some people think that that is more like a yin class, got more yin and restorative poses in there. I mean, regardless, a gentle class should be approachable by and for most people, okay? It's just important to remember that that word gentle is completely subjective. What's gentle for some person may be super challenging to someone else, depending on your ability and the pace at which it's offered.